Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo. It's the middle of the week, so that means we're going to do one of those Ask Tony segments. It's also a vlog, so I'm going to throw in a bit of information that I wanted to relate to you guys for the week ahead. Now, I'm going to try and be a little bit more consistent with these. I know I said in the past that I would start digging into a lot of those Q&A questions, making it a 2-a-week thing. My original plan was to do it on Saturday. Well, that just doesn't work, so we're going to do it on Wednesday. It makes more sense on Wednesday, so expect them on Wednesday. Again, we're going to be looking at 2 questions each and every episode, along with some additional vlog information, micro channel update stuff. So let's actually start with that. I wanted to give a big thank you to all of you guys who've been supporting me over on Twitch. The stream stuff has been going pretty well, considering I can only squeeze in like 3 days and maybe like 2 to 3 hours each day if I'm lucky. Just don't have that much time, but the growth has been awesome. The interaction's been great. You know, lots of people consistently in chat just hanging out, having a good time. A lot of people squadding up to play some Titanfall 2. It's been some good stuff. There's simply no doubt about that. So thank you guys all once again. If you just subscribed, you're unaware of the Twitch stuff, well, you can find my Twitch channel right down in the comment section below. That pinned comment I always pin at every video. It's right there, full of juicy information, including my Twitch, including my Twitter. If you want to get up-to-date information on when I'm going live, the days I plan on streaming, and when those streams are going to start and end, Twitter is also the place for that. Thank you guys once again. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me about Patreon-type stuff, like donation-type stuff. Tony, is there a way we can additionally support the channel outside of just watching and sharing? Well, number one, I always appreciate watching and sharing. Honestly, if there's one thing you can do for me that's $0, it's to share my content whenever and wherever you can. Now, I do have a Patreon. I don't talk a lot about it, but it's there. If you're interested, you can absolutely go ahead and throw some money at me over there. I use any money that goes into the Patreon for the upgrade of hardware and software. So buying new editing stuff, if I needed to upgrade to recording software, I used it in the past to purchase a copy of DX Story. I used it to help purchase my 1070 so I could have higher quality PC gameplay. And all of the money that's going into my Patreon right now from the several people who currently support me, thank you guys very much. You know who you are out there. That money is going to be going towards a brand new webcam. So just know that if you do decide to put money into Patreon to further support the channel, you are directly supporting the channel. That money goes straight to hardware and software stuff to just make the content that I make better, easier for me to make, more efficient for me to make, and all in all, more enjoyable for you guys to watch. Again, it is not necessary at all. I'm not asking you to. If you would like to, though, I do indeed greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. And let's leave it at that. Moving forward, let's take a look at the 2 questions for today's Ask Tony. We've got a question from Casual King. Casual asks, Tony, what is the hardest part of making a video? Is it the capturing of footage, the recording, the research, the editing? What is the most difficult thing when it comes to making a video? This is a great question, and I can say something about each of these topics, to be completely honest. Editing and research, they are really mundane and tedious tasks. And the more effective, the more efficient you get at editing, the more mundane it becomes. You just take less time to do it. It's always a mundane task. Obviously, coming up with new edits or making more complicated videos is a nice little challenge, but it's not a consistently difficult thing, at least not for me. The same is said for research. Now, when it comes to writing a script or something like that, I don't really write scripts per se. I don't script all of my content like a lot of people do. I don't read off of a script when I make my content. I instead construct outlines. These outlines contain all the information, key topics and points that I need to make sure I touch on when I put together a video. For example, my outlines are structured to showcase the kit, the weapon, the secondary, the grenade type, and then I do my pilot kit stuff. I make sure that the outline basically keeps me in order when I actually start spitting the commentary. It allows me to focus more on the nuances of the conversation between each piece. It allows me to focus on making connections, throwing in a few jokes here and there, and of course cutting to any quick quips or tips along the way to keep you guys entertained and to keep you focused on the subject matter at hand. So those aren't exceptionally difficult. They are valuable, though. Outlines are very important. They're something I didn't used to do, but when I started making more structured, edited videos, I found that outlines were my best friend. They made sure that I stayed in line while I was spitting my commentaries, and also, at the end of the day, that the commentary just came out as a far better end product. The hardest part, though, the hardest thing here, it might be a surprise, is actually the recording of footage. Number one, it's a matter of consistently finding time to play the games you want to make content for, and then getting the footage you need, specifically when it comes to loadout videos. You know, I might make a loadout that has the P2 as the secondary and realize that, you know, Titanfall is a game where pulling out a secondary isn't really necessary, unless maybe I was running a sniper for a primary. So if I've got a loadout that has, say, a pistol and the car is the primary because it's a live fire loadout, I have to intentionally use the pistol to showcase its usefulness, which is not always an easy thing. But the side effect of that is that I'm constantly questioning the value of that item within my loadout. And if I realize that I really don't want to use it or that I struggle to use it, I sometimes negate it unless I'm trying to make a more challenge-focused loadout. So it's all about the gameplay, just getting the gameplay. And I think the biggest factor, as someone who just really loves games like I do, is that I want to play other games sometimes. You know, I don't really have the free time. My days are always absolutely crunched. So while Tuesday is my one day off, and I'd love to have sat down and played Horizon, I worked on the episode of Pilot's Ponder with Rob. I got that edited and cleaned up. I made the, you know, the actual visual edit for it, so you guys could just have something up there, you know, podcast style. And then I had to render it out, get it up. I wanted to wander off and play Horizon at that point, but I knew I needed to be playing Livefire because I am focusing on a Livefire themed loadout for Titanfall 2. So it's that sacrifice, and it's not like I don't like playing Titanfall 2. I do, I really do. But when you're someone who just likes playing games, of course you want to check out the new hotness. Of course you want to play Horizon Zero Dawn. You know, you've been looking forward to this game for 3-4 years. The same's gonna happen with Zelda Breath of the Wild this weekend. You know, you just have to set time limits. Okay, I can play this for an hour. I've got to get back to what I'm doing. So that personally for me is the hardest part. You know, I can squeeze in the time here and there to play Titanfall to get the footage, you know, and deal with the struggles of getting specific footage for specific guns and specific objects and you know, in different environments. But when you just really want to play your all-time favorite game, or you know, that new hotness that just came out, and you got to pull yourself away from it, that's probably the hardest thing as someone who just loves games. Thank you for that, Casual. A lot of great stuff within that question. Really dug that one. Moving on, let's take a look at Dylan Teague's question. Dylan asks, Tony, what are your favorite sci-fi works? It can be films, comics, it doesn't really matter the media. He also mentions that he knows it's difficult to boil it down to one. I could not agree more. So we're going to go with the works thing here. We're going to say, what are your favorite sci-fi works? I've got a couple picked out. I think, you know, we can get the obvious ones out of the way. Star Wars, something I grew up with. Star Trek, something I fell in love with over the last 5 years. In fact, I've watched all of the series at this point, except for Deep Space Nine. That's the only one I really haven't dove into. I've watched The Next Generation more than twice at this point because Jean-Luc Picard. Can we say more than that? Now, Alien, obviously. I think Blade Runner's a big one for me. You know, Blade Runner's a commonly loved and embraced sci-fi film, and it's just one of those ones for me. I don't know what it is about Blade Runner, but I watch it probably monthly. There'll be some months where I just feel like I have to watch it every weekend. I just, you know, there's something about Harrison Ford for me. And then you put him in Cyberpunk, you know, you put him in Blade Runner, and I'm just like, I'm there. I'm there. I can't wait for the new film, by the way. It looks absolutely incredible. More esoteric films, though. You guys may or may not have heard of Event Horizon. It's a film with Sam Neill. It is like proper space sci-fi type stuff. Horror, though. And honestly, if you watch Event Horizon, you're going to be reminded of Dead Space time and time again. I remember actually working at GameStop when the original Dead Space was about to release, and I got my copy early at work, so I was playing it in secret, and a buddy of mine was like, Tony, you got to check out this film called Event Horizon with Sam Neill, man. You'll love it, dude. It is just like, it's so much like what's going on in Dead Space. So I went over to his house, we watched it, and ever since then I've been like, damn, dude, Visceral had to have taken inspiration from Event Horizon. Fantastic little film. Do yourself a huge favor, check it out. It's more thriller type horror, so not a lot of straightforward gore and violence. I think you'll really like it if you're into that type of thing. Now, when we talk about games, Halo and Mass Effect really are my top two for me. Again, Halo I grew up with, and Mass Effect is something that I think BioWare just crushed. I'm one of the few people, I think, who loved BioWare for what they did with Mass Effect from start to finish with 1, 2, and 3, and cannot wait for Andromeda. I did not mind the ending of Mass Effect 3 at all. I was just, like, in awe that I had gotten to experience this incredible trilogy with these amazing characters, and it was just an emotional joyride, you know? So that was the big thing for Mass Effect for me, was the emotional aspect, the way that the game was able to just connect to you, all those different characters. I mean, I still remember rediscovering Garrus for the first time, I think in the second or third game, you know, when you were dealing with the Blood Angels. I don't even remember, it's been so long. But anyways, just, you know, when a character reappears in a series and you go like, oh, you have a little, you know, like schoolboy moment, you know they've done something right. With Halo, it was a matter of obviously being like something of my youth, but also there was so much going on in the expanded universe that I enjoyed. Films, all of the books for a long time, that it was hard not to get really involved in everything that was Halo, the larger universe outside of the game. So those two, man, they crush it for me. I could name other games, but those two, they block everything else out like the sun. So all the way with those. Now, when it comes to books aren't actually something that I've ever really gotten into in terms of sci-fi stuff. I'd love to read some Asimov at some point. I've got a few great sci-fi artists my brother's recommended that I genuinely should dive into that I simply haven't. So that's something for the future for me. Thank you so much for your question, Dylan. I really loved that one. Once again, guys, if your question didn't get answered in this video, there will be plenty more to come. I like to do 2 questions per video because I can focus more on the questions. I can be more expansive on them. And I think it's just a great way to get in touch with who I am. And I would also love for you guys to answer some of these questions as well. You know, what are some of your favorite sci-fi works? Feel free to get a little bit of a discussion flowing. Talk about it down in the comments section. And of course, if you have any future questions you'd like to see me answer potentially, feel free to throw them down there as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for the support on Twitch. If anyone decides to head over to the Patreon, thank you in advance. I'm going to get back to getting ready to stream tonight, actually, and also, of course, working on that new closer. I'll see you in the next one.